Hey guys, I'm going to go through problem 4 from the review packet, and it's pretty straightforward. It's just another quadratic equation, so as we know, we can use either of our two methods. But the question is asking us, first of all, to start thinking about what a realistic number might be for how long a person can stay in the air. So how long do you think you can stay in the air? Well, you might want to think about it for yourself. If you were to jump and land, how long would it take? I'm going to guess somewhere around 1 second of me in the air. Who knows? Maybe I'm close, maybe I'm not. Just a guess so that I'm start thinking along the right lines here, so that if I get a number like 13, I know that that's not possible. All right. Problem 4. His slam dunk is represented by h of t, so that's the height above the ground, and t is time in seconds. So how long did he stay in the air? Well, we said we can use either of our two methods, so I'm going to use the quadratic formula, and I would explain to some of you why I'm choosing to use one method over the other. I think that completing the square is easier if this is even, which it is, and also if a is a factor of c, because we know at some point we're going to have to divide everything in our equation by this, and in this case we would have to divide 10 by negative 16, which is going to give us a negative fraction, and that's just going to make life a little bit difficult for us at some point. So if those two things aren't what I have, then I'm just going to use the quadratic formula, because that's going to be a lot easier. So let me plug all this into my formula. So I want to make sure that everything's in there the way it needs to be. Again, you don't need to memorize the formula, but x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2a. Remember, not sum over 2a, all over 2a. So it's this negative 4 that's also going to be divided by 2a. All right, so we move on to the next step. We're just going to start to simplify the discriminant, the stuff here under the square root. And when we do that, we realize that we can also simplify the denominator. That's not going to affect anything if in this step we also do 2 times negative 16. Now we can add these two things together, and that's a pretty easy thing to simplify. We'll get the square root of 656. We're hoping that's a perfect square. It's not likely to be, but it could be. And if it is, that's going to make things really easy on us. So let's first talk about how to break this thing down. We have this 656 that we're really hoping is a perfect square. Well, the square root of 656 has a perfect square embedded inside of it. One of its factors is 16, and the square root of 16, as we know, is 4. So we can simplify this thing to 4 radical 41. And that doesn't change our answer at all. It's going to make things a lot easier on us, though, when we start to simplify this thing a little bit further. So let's rewrite it that way, as negative 4 plus or minus 4 radical 41 all over negative 32. All right, we're starting to make this thing look much easier to deal with. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is divide everything in here by 4, these 4 numbers. I'm just going to pull a 4 right out of this whole thing, and now everything will turn into negative 1 plus or minus radical 41 all over negative 8. And this is where we will split our situation into two cases. I don't have space to the right, so I'm going to have our positive case and our negative case, which is where negative 1 plus radical 41 is divided by negative 8 over here. And let's also account for if negative 1 is minus 41, radical 41 over negative 8. Since it's asking for time, we're not going to leave our answers like this. We're going to run these through a calculator and see what we end up with. So when we do that, you should get negative 0.68 out of the positive answer, and you should get 0.93 from the negative answer. Remember, we have to remember to get rid of this because we're talking about time. So our answer is 0.93 seconds. And that's that. Not too difficult, pretty straightforward quadratic formula question. Remember, we can use the quadratic formula on anything. So in this case, we use it on Jordan doing a dunk, and now it's kind of a real world example. So good luck on the others, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.